Black Hawk, The End of the Trail. RiverFest 2023 Indigenous Scars, Wisconsin Massacre, and Boarding Schools. Indigenous people have lived in Wisconsin for thousands of years. Today we're going to take a look at a piece of state history that tells the story of colliding cultures, quest for and occupying land, and a tragedy that ended traditional Indian life in our state in the 1800s. Much has been written or told about what's been called the Battle of Bad Axe, the Black Hawk War, or the Bad Axe Massacre. You can find links on the RiverFest website under resources if you'd like more details on what led up to the final event in western Wisconsin. Tonight we're sharing a driving tour of the Vernon County where you can see the landscape, read the tablets that have marked the trail since 1930, and get a sense of this historical event. The Vernon County Historical Society has a map and brochure telling the story and explaining the nearly 100-year-old markers that are still in place. Dr. Charles Porter, a Vernon County doctor, dairyman, and local historian, was the force behind creation of the markers erected in 1930. When Porter studied the Black Hawk War in the 1880s, he used some of the most pro-Indian accounts ever produced, in contrast to the anti-Indian texts of 1830 to 1870 and 1890 to 1920. A quick overview to set the stage in 1832. Black Hawk was a prominent war leader who led his followers to a disaster in 1832. For at least 100 years before that war, these Indians had migrated back and forth across the Mississippi River from Iowa to Illinois. Each fall they moved west or north to hunt, and every spring they returned to their homes along the Rock River in Illinois for planting. In defiance of the 1831 agreement to stay west of the Mississippi, or more probably because of a misunderstanding, on April 6, 1832, about 900 Sac and Mesquakies, or also known as the Fox, many of them women, children, and the elderly, came east across the Mississippi River to plant their crops. To their dismay, they found their homes destroyed and the land claimed by the white settlers. General Henry Atkinson led troops north to enforce the 1831 treaty. Of the nearly 1,000 in Black Hawk's company, only about 300 were warriors. They did not want to fight, so Black Hawk avoided the soldiers and moved his band northward into Wisconsin. When he failed to get needed support from other tribes, he decided to return west. He tried to communicate this, but a lack of interpreters led to fighting. On May 8th, Atkinson mustered 1,700 Illinois militia into federal service. By mid-July, most of Black Hawk's band was in hiding in the Four Lakes region near present-day Madison. There, unable to hunt or fish effectively, they suffered malnutrition. When the elderly and the children began to die, Black Hawk led the party west toward the Mississippi. His rearguard action at the July 21st Battle of Wisconsin Heights, near present-day Sauk City, stalled the pursuing militia. This allowed the retreating Indians to get a head start as they fled toward the Mississippi River. We're now going to drive the marked trail through the bluff country of southwestern Wisconsin. Black Hawk and his people reached the site of marker number 1 on July 31st, 1832. That marker is in Crawford County at the tiny town of Rising Sun. In the ravine across the road, a spring and abundance of trees provided an ideal overnight campsite for Black Hawk's dwindling followers on July 31st and for Army troops the next night. Marker number 2 is where General Atkinson for the first time sent the regular Army troops in pursuit of the faltering Indian band. Only the volunteer militia had fought so far. Marker number 3, what a desperate situation in Black Hawk's camp. But struggle on they must as they followed the trail north and west to the spot on the Mississippi River that Black Hawk knew was the easiest place to cross, as there were numerous islands and water was not so deep. Marker number 4, in their need to reach the river, the Indians fled more to the west as a shorter route. Black Hawk had sent 20 of his best warriors on to the north as a decoy in hopes that the army and militia would follow, and thus give more time for the Indians to build rafts and escape. Marker number 5, General Atkinson fell for Black Hawk's decoy, and here encountered the pick of Black Hawk's warriors and killed them. Then they quickly turned toward the river, arriving on the bluff overlooking Battle Hollow, where the battle between the militiamen and the Indians was raging. Marker number 6, the militia had turned more to the west, and as they neared the river they encountered Black Hawk's rearguard in what is now called Battle Hollow. Fierce fighting ensued. Marker number 7, the militia and army troops crossed over to the islands where the assault against the Indians continued. Men, women, and children were caught in the crossfire from guns on the steamer Warrior from Fort Crawford and Prairie du Chien, and sharpshooters on shore. The slaughter continued for 8 hours. Thus ended what has been called the Black Hawk Massacre. When you take your driving tour of Vernon County on the Black Hawk Trail, you'll also see signs reflecting the history of the area. The small town of Victory got its name from the victory over Black Hawk that happened nearby. If you're interested in more details on this piece of Wisconsin history, you can visit the Great River Road Interpretive Center at Bad Axe. It's located on Highway 35 south of La Crosse and shares the site with the Genoa National Fish Hatchery. The project was partially funded by a National Scenic Byways grant, and the Interpretive Center was opened in 2018. The construction started in 2013 and ground was broken with an earlier ceremony including representatives from the Sauk and Fox Nation in Stroud, Oklahoma. Oversight was given to the creation of the Black Hawk War exhibit, and the story of Bad Axe is told with both native history and military historical records. If you're interested in learning more about the Bad Axe Massacre, plan a trip to southwestern Wisconsin to drive the century-old trail and visit the Vernon County Historical Museum in Viroqua and the Great River Road Interpretive Center near Genoa.